Hey, those guys who are trying to, kill you?
Look, whatever your name was.
Elias.
Really? Whatever. You don't get it. This is incredibly serious business. This is Pokemon.
Humans have weird priorities.
Get down! Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to...
Oh my god. Why are you making a video on this? Fucking Joshua? Really? Yeah, at this point, you are literally murdering my fucking children right now. Dead bodies all across the fucking stage. Every one of them's on fire. You're out of gasoline, and I'm out of bubblegum, so I'm probably gonna kick your fucking ass.
You know, you could let me actually explain what I'm doing before you go on a tirade about what I'm saying.
You fucking cock.
Fighting cock. You mean fighting cock. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce Joshua Culvyhouse, better known as Joshua8428, a previous bandwagon who kind of faded out of existence and then just randomly reappeared. He hasn't learned much, if anything, based on what I've seen. Well, I stand corrected. He's covering more things that he didn't cover in the past, including Pokemon. Yeah, it turns out there's a reason for me to use Blaziken this time. In this video, he explains why Mewtwo needs Mega Evolutions in order to combat other Mega Evolutions. Now, I've already spoken to Joshua about my issues with this video, and he proceeded to have the intelligence of a brick wall when discussing these issues, so now I need to show my audience what happens when someone who doesn't know about strategy fucks with a well-established strategy gamer.
Hello YouTubers, it's Joshua8428 speaking. This video is going to be different because I'm going to explain why Mewtwo got 2 Mega Evolutions. Remember my one-shot on my comment? Yeah, I will admit that this is pointless since I could have left it in the comment, but this is going to be special because I'm going to give you guys strategy on how to use Mewtwo against someone who has a Pokemon that has Mega Evolution. Because without Mega Evolution, Mewtwo would be screwed.
Okay, first issue. Your audio is really bad. Like, so bad I'm making a point about it. So that should tell you something, considering people I've covered before that I didn't make this point about. Your audio quality goes all over the place too, and there are points where the background noise makes it difficult to understand what you're saying without having to go over the video multiple times. Of course, that's not the only thing that makes you difficult to understand. It sounds like you cut yourself off just before the end of your last word on each take, and it's distracting as all hell. And to think I haven't even touched on what you actually said yet. So, you state the purpose of this video was to show why Mewtwo got 2 Mega Evolutions. That's gonna bite you in the ass later. Second, your statement about this being a continuation of your one-shot on Manga Common? Yeah, I never watched that video. While the fact that I haven't doesn't go against your video entirely, as you state your reason for making this video is to show that Mewtwo needs Mega Evolution in order to function against other Mega Evolutions. Which also contradicts your statement about the previously stated purpose of the video, but that's not where that statement bites you in the ass, so nah. But you didn't leave a link to the video that this is a continuation of in the description, which would normally be a throwaway type of one-off thing for me to say, but in the description you outright call this a continuation of that video. You know, without providing any link to the video. I mean, it'd be one thing if not for the fact that you also state in the video that it's a continuation. At least with my Powerpuff Girls reviews, each video stands on its own without the need of other videos to clarify my point, save for the introduction clarifying some of the things about the overall series. Third, pointing out the fact that you are pointlessly splitting up your content does not remove the issue. And yeah, going back to my example of my own series, you could say that I don't have to review each episode independently either, but your justification is that in this video, you're going to provide strategy. Why the fuck couldn't you do that in the one shot? And then there's your use of the word screwed to describe what happens to Mewtwo without Mega Evolution. Now, in our conversation, you pointed out the fact that Mewtwo could lose in a battle meant that it was screwed in your eyes. That's not what that word means. While it's true that screwed also means that the Pokemon could be in a situation that is simply difficult, I'll be able to point out during this commentary that, not really. It's just a situation where victory isn't guaranteed.
As you can see here, its space stats focuses on special attack and speed, making it better in battle. The best moves it can learn are Psychic, Side Strike, Barrier, and Shadow Ball. 2 attack moves which will give it a power advantage, 1 move that is a different type just in case if other attacks have no effect, and Barrier that can make it strong on the defense if it encounters someone with a higher physical attack.
I'm sorry. What? This move list you've come up with is garbage. First of all, both Psychic and Side Strike? Why? First of all, both of them are Psychic moves, so both get Stab. Second, Side Strike has a higher base attack, so it will take advantage of this more effectively. The only advantage Psychic has is that it hits special defense, and that advantage is situational. So instead of letting a Dark type blank half the moves on your Mewtwo, why not just pick one of them based on what else your team has access to, and use the other move to make Mewtwo's type coverage more effective with something like Thunderbolt, or Thunder on a rain team, or Ice Beam, or Energy Ball, or Flamethrower, or Aura Sphere, or a move that doesn't have 100% accuracy but is more powerful. And then there's Barrier. On top of being a blank against the special attacker, Barrier is also a blank against most things that can already kill Mewtwo, or any of its mega forms for that matter, in 2 hits, since the turns you spend actually using Barrier are taken away by the damage dealt anyway, unless the damage is like 50 to 60%, which gives you an extra 2 turns by the end of the Barrier. Considering all the options for type coverage that I listed, is it really worth it to make it last longer if it's taking out the majority of the team anyway? And this is before pointing out the fact that the defenses on a regular Mewtwo are the same, so, what about a special attacker? I guess you're just fucked against them, huh? Since Mewtwo's defenses are both 90, which is actually really good for a Pokemon that's not intended to be a wall. Oops.
Now let's say Charizard Mega Evolved to Mega Charizard X, thanks to its increase of physical attacks, tough cards ability, and being a Dragon type. The only moves it would have to learn are Flare Blitz, Dragon Claw, Fire Punch, and Outrage to help with this. Mega Charizard's wide special attack would increase and is given the ability Drought. The only moves it could focus on is special fire type attack moves and a special flying type move. Either way, Mewtwo is screwed if he faces them in base form.
First of all, let's just go ahead and assume that we go with the move list you provide, even though they are highly suboptimal against someone who has resistances to those types, like Carbink, which is a setup Pokemon that I happen to like using. Next, as far as EVs and IVs go, let's just assume that EVs don't exist, since the fact that a Pokemon could have a certain stat raised doesn't mean that the other couldn't have the stat to counteract that also raised. Let's also assume that the IVs are all equal, since if we factor in IVs being different, same argument with EVs, especially when Pokemon Sun and Moon come out. Natures will be neutral, neither will have any advantage over the other in terms of training, and I'll go with the abilities you stated for your Charizards and stick with Pressure for the Mewtwo, which has no effect on the damage output. There's one thing that I'll change later, but I'm going to tell you exactly why I change it when the time comes. I'm also using Pokemon Showdown's damage calculator, link in the description, as it's the most accurate damage calculator I can find. So, as you can see here, Mega Charizard X has 2 moves that are guaranteed to kill Mewtwo in 2 hits, indicated by their damage being over 50%. Mewtwo, on the other hand, has only 1. However, as you can see, Mega Charizard X's speed is lower than Mewtwo's, meaning that a normal Mewtwo is guaranteed to take out a Mega Charizard X before Mega Charizard X can take him out in an evenly matched battle like this. Again, using your moveset. You didn't exactly specify what moves Charizard Y got, so I just gave it Blast Burn, Air Slash, Solar Beam because you forgot how sunlight works, and Overheat, sure, well. Then I gave Mewtwo a tool that Mega Charizard Y doesn't have access to. A held item in choice specs. See, your whole argument is that without Mega Evolution, Mewtwo is screwed, which indicates the fact that it's difficult to win, but you forget that held items exist. Choice Specs isn't exactly an out-of-place choice for a Mewtwo built like this, and it gives you an 81.6% chance of winning. That's not exactly a difficult situation.
However, if it Mega Evolves, it will have a great advantage. Mega Mewtwo's wide special attack and speed would increase, making it unstoppable for the most part.
You mean even though your chances of victory are worse? Without access to choice specs, the damage potential for Mewtwo Y actually drops in comparison to having an item slot. So instead of having an 18.4% chance of losing without any other contributing factors, you have a flat 25% chance before any training gets factored in. In other words, your odds of winning against Charizard Y actually decrease, given the moveset you just described. Your odds against Charizard X don't change, you still beat him. However, you do wind up at lower HP than if you had simply not Mega Evolved, meaning you're more likely to lose Mewtwo before it can knock anything else out.
By here you see, but what if it Mega Evolves to Mega Mewtwo X? Simple. Give it 2 physical fighting and psychic attack moves, and 2 stat fighting and psychic moves. Barrier, Psycho Cut, Bulk Up, and Brick Break.
I put all these moves in the list that I'll be using for this calculation, but I have 2 things to add. One of them isn't really against Joshua, but the other is about Barrier and Bulk Up. Really? As we've established, these Charizards will already very likely take away the extra turn you get out of your barriers, so using it is pointless, especially since Bulk Up is a better option if you know that you have a turn and you know you need some bonus in order to get the killing blow. Then why not just use Bulk Up? It'll reduce your damage to increase your longevity and increase your damage output to have an easier time killing what comes after. Next, I want to address your Brick Break choice. It's a good choice for a fighting move, as long as you don't have Omega Ruby or Alpha Sapphire, that is. If you have either one of those, Mewtwo can learn Drain Punch from a tutor, which is strictly better. It does the same damage, has the same accuracy, but it also heals you. And hey, if you either know you're going to get a kill or know you have time regardless, may as well hit a damage dealing recover, right? Not really something against you, just additional information.
And thanks to its steadfast ability, if it flinches, it will go faster.
Even though none of the moves you mentioned on Charizard's side flinch someone. And if it flinches, you lose a turn. I mean, granted, in order for flinching to even affect it, your opponent has to have a faster Pokemon, unless they have priority, but it's not useful in the situation you provided. Also, pressure increases how much PP the opponent uses. When you're talking about moves like Blast Burn that have like 5 to 8 PP, that's a lot more relevant.
So there you have it, the best strategy to use Mewtwo. If there's one thing I've overlooked and you want to know about something else, I will gladly answer them in the comments section.
Not even gonna go over how Mewtwo X can actually beat Charizard? Okay, first of all, remember when you said at the very beginning you were going to show why Mewtwo needed 2 Mega Evolutions? And you talked about why one is good and grazed over the other one. Sad thing is, I know exactly why you grazed over Mewtwo X. Because if we actually take a look at Mewtwo X's matchup with your build, it loses! So first, the X's. Charizard has a guaranteed 2-hit knockout, while Mewtwo only gets a 9.8% chance. So Mewtwo loses if it's just a straight up fist fight. Of course, you had to complicate things with your defense moves. The fact that we even have to use Barrier or Bulk Up at all kinda proves my point, but I'll humor you for a second. Partially to show you that Barrier isn't needed when you have Bulk Up. So this is how everything looks after a single Bulk Up. We are now guaranteed a knockout in 2 hits, and the maximum damage we take is 94%. I'm not going too far into the math here, but the damage output for Charizard if we Barrier once is 30 to 35.6%, and we still have only a 9.8% chance of killing in 2 hits, and a 30% chance of dying when we fail. Why do that when you can just Bulk Up and already know they can't win? Before you try to bring up using Barrier multiple times in a row, you can do that with Bulk Up too, using it until you can one-shot with a chance of failure lower than your chance of success with the Barrier strategy. And of course, there's also the fact that Mewtwo X doesn't even get a chance against Charizard Y, while regular Mewtwo at least got the choice specs. Look, I get it. You wanted to explain why Mewtwo's Mega Evolutions made sense to be put in the game. That doesn't mean you need to prove how good they are in battle, though. It does give a Pokemon that a lot of people kind of pushed off to the side when new legendary Pokemon took the spotlight, including what seems like a psychic legendary every generation, some new attention. And it didn't make sense for the only Pokemon to have version-specific Megas to be a non-legendary, and a starter Pokemon no less. On top of that, X and Y called back to Generation 1 a lot, and it was probably intentional that they did so. These were the games where you even got a second starter from Kanto, for fuck's sake. Third if you got the Torchic. But to try and prove that Mewtwo wasn't viable without it is kinda dumb, especially since your example just serves to show that it actually was viable without it, even with the introduction of other Megas. I would have advice for you, but unfortunately I have every reason to believe that you won't listen. I mean, I did speak to you about the issues I had, and you swept them under the rug, and my only thought is that you didn't understand what I was saying, even though I spelled it out as simply as the English language would allow, multiple times. You even used factually inaccurate calculations to try to prove your point, and tried to tell me that same type attack bonus is double the original attack of the move. It's not. So, I don't really know what else to say at this point.
I can think of something.
Is it get good again?
What? No, that's stupid.
Oh. Okay, what is it then?
Get back to the damn plot!